in my belly most of the time.
Are we starting?
Here we go.
Wait. Your daughter's name is?
Mary
What?
Elizabeth.
Your daughter's
Mary Elizabeth.
Mary Lou.
She'll be in a minute.
She loves that very much.
Go ahead. Call to order the City of Norman City Council Finance Committee meeting of Thursday, October 20th, 2022. Mr. Francisco, first item on the agenda is discussion regarding an interim appropriation for the Senior Wellness Center.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have been discussing for the last few months the most recent guaranteed maximum price returns that we've gotten from the Senior Wellness Center project have been about $1 million, about $1,200,000 over the amount of money that has been allocated to that project, and we knew that going in, and a lot of reasons why, and we've talked about that with this committee. We thought that it would match up fairly well with money that we expected to come in from the sale of the 718 North Porter building. And while council had not formally taken that action yet, because nothing had been formalized related to the sale, we thought that the timing would work out well for that appropriation to be made to the project to kind of close that funding gap. But there has been a delay from the county in making that purchase and uncertainty about whether it'll be made actually. So we have discussed some alternative methods of closing that gap, which I'll turn over to Mr. Olson to talk about. But basically it's allocating money from the capital fund and or from the general fund, from other closed out projects in the capital fund, or from just general fund balance.
Yeah, of course, Jason Olson, Parks and Recreation Director. As y'all remember in our presentation, it's probably been several months since we've done that, we talked about the gap between where we were and how it thankfully wind up with the land exchange with Norman Regional. We had 420,000-ish in a cash exchange, along with a building 718 Porter, which was worth about 1.2. At the time, if we were able to grant everything in our guaranteed maximum price, which is our contract amendment with our contractor out there, we were about $1.6 million short, including some contingency money that would go in there to make sure that it would count for any overages or changes within everything. So at the time, we did allocate as much money as we could to the higher priority things that we needed to make sure that we got ordered, and make sure we got our subcontractors in line out there to get the work done that was coming the soonest, or something that we knew that had a long lead time ordering. When we did our last guaranteed maximum price, we did not include, or we didn't have the $1.2 million funded. So that is still kind of hanging out there, and we were depending on the sale of 718 Porter to happen to make that final allocation. So it's actually been such a long period of time since that GMP4 was granted out there at the senior center, so we're gonna have to rebid it. I just came from a construction meeting today. I always try not to put slacks on construction meeting days because I get to walk and get dirt everywhere, but we just came from a meeting out there, found out, and I know we were kind of talking about the possibilities of this happening in the finance meeting, and we found out from them they do have to go ahead. It's been such a long period of time since our last time we bid everything out. They're gonna have to bid everything out that we did not grant to on that last one. So we're gonna do a bidding, and hopefully it still fits within that $1.2 million range. It's been over, I believe it's been about 5 months since we did that, so. And usually when you grant a contract, you have about 90 days to sign that letter of intent, and of course we didn't meet that.
But we have nothing in the ground yet, right?
Out there at the,
Senior Center.
we're pretty far along, so we have, if you do the math, I need somebody better than me, so there's about $14 million in construction, and we're $1.2 million short. That's what we've granted. so far. So out there right now, we have walls up, stills going up on, starting next week. We have foundation, CMU's gone up. So we're actually progressing pretty far out there. Is just the final things like sheetrock and painting and final finish millwork and stuff like that we have not granted, which we think will be somewhere in $1 million to $1.2 million range when we finally rebid that back out.
I need to take a trip out there.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We didn't make the 90-day deadline because the sale of North Porter didn't happen. Is that the way I understand that?
We were thinking at the time that it could happen pretty quick, and for whatever reason with the county, and they're still working on making that purchase. And so 718 is still in our possession, and we don't have those funds that we were depending on selling that building.
That's why we would have to rebid though.
Yes.
That held up our.
So, and I think what the ask is that we'll go ahead and borrow the $1.2 million from the general fund, and whenever we do sell that building, that we would put that back to replace the general fund money.
Well, I would guess that even if the county doesn't end up buying it, that it is, especially after the Porter Streetscape project is finished, that piece of property would be valuable to somebody that might want it.
Yes.
I don't know of a need that, maybe we might have a need for it actually, but if we needed to sell it, it seems like it would be a property that would be, I
Prime
don't know, say
business.
easy to sell, but easy to sell based on its location and frontage to
And
somebody else if the county did fall through.
one final piece of property or information how we would probably handle this is that we would go ahead and finish out everything that's left to be bid. And then once we get the information back on those bids, we would make send another agenda item to you with that exact appropriation, whatever that is. In that, it might be $1 million, it might be $1.2 million, but that'll come for you, and you'll see that come out of the general fund and hopefully replaced later by the sale of 718 Porter.
Construction costs are up 2.5%.
Actually, they've come back, well, not down to where they were, but they have come down from the highs.
Oh, that's a relief.
They're leveling out, or that's probably they quit going up.
Jacking up. Okay. Well, that's a relief. And, oh, sorry. I've got to turn, Chairman.
If we did this, Anthony, what does that do to the general fund?
The general fund is in a position to be able to absorb it, certainly for a period of months between now and the end of the fiscal year.
Okay,
It would be, the answer, $1.2 million is a lot of money.
Right,
If
sure.
we got to the point that we're either getting toward the end of the fiscal year or getting toward an understanding that the building is not gonna sell at all, then that would be a point of discussion for the council as a whole and for this committee. But at least to the extent that we're pretty sure that the building is going to sell, we'd have the money by June 30th. The general fund is in a position to front the money if you wanted to do that.
so other than last year, every other year, PSST is usually underfunded. Is that coming in okay right now? Because I know that would maybe have to be like an appropriation we make, and I don't want those two things competing. We haven't sold the
Yeah, it
building.
wouldn't be a competition between those two, because to the extent that public safety sales tax is getting subsidized, we budgeted for that.
Okay,
And at least when we adopted the budget, we didn't think we would need to this fiscal year.
okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you had mentioned on other projects, and forgive me if I'm just ignorant of how it works. If you have projects and that's already been allocated and that project's closed out and those funds are still maybe sitting there, have they been already allocated back to the general fund yet?
In most cases, those projects would be budgeted in the capital fund.
Yeah, okay.
And yes, they would have gone back when you closed those projects out to the capital fund balance, and you could reallocate them. But there are a lot of projects that funds remain allocated, that you have not closed out the project, or the project is delayed, those sorts of things. And so, for example, that's how we funded a lot of the construction of the transit and public safety maintenance facility, was out of closed out capital projects that you just reallocated those funds.
So could that even be like, hey, this is sitting here, we're not even to it yet, we need it for now, and then we'll make sure it gets back then. So we're not even taking it from general, we're just taking it from a different.
No, and the proposal that Jason's talking about is to come from general fund balance. It's just as an alternative, another way to do it.
But could
might be.
capital reimburse?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know the specifics or legalities of all that, if it do it different
Yeah.
funds. I'm saying if there's a project that has been, we say, hey, we did appropriate that, it's still waiting in the wings or whatever, we need this money immediately now. Could you say, we're gonna shift that to here and then we'll come back, when this sells, then that will fund that?
Yeah, we try not to recommend that you do that with active ongoing projects. But for projects that have been dormant for 2 or 3 years,
That's fine.
yes, that's something that council can do. It's all your decision to make. The recommendation that Jason is making is just general fund balance. Hopefully, we get the money back in by the.
So
end of the fiscal year.
regardless, there's multiple avenues to get this done, whichever way but that's the easiest. That's the way y'all are, okay. I'm just wondering, just for my own knowledge, like councilman.
Legally speaking, you're the man. You can do whatever you want to do. You can cancel projects if you want to.
Thank you.
I had the benefit of actually getting my Parks and Rec orientation the other day and got to see the senior center and see all the progress that's been made. And I just want to weigh in and say I feel pretty confident with the proposal that he's asking, and I'm well aware of 718 North Porter, but I feel with the infrastructure that's coming, like there's another bus stop, I think, coming to Porter and Robinson, correct?
I didn't know that. did I?
South of Robinson on Porter and Porter.
Right close to our building.
Yeah, and then we have.
Alameda line or?
This, you mean which route
Yeah.
is it? Can't tell you that route.
New route.
And then with the RTA stuff, I see that property being very attractive to someone.
Yeah.
So I'm confident with this proposal.
I would agree. Any other questions or thoughts? All right. Item number 2.
Next order of business is the routine and ongoing monthly revenue and expenditure reports. A couple of things I would draw to your attention. October sales tax continues to be flat. And again, flat is a good thing because we're comparing to an up year. I will say that we continue to lag behind our neighboring cities in the metro area and in the state this fiscal year. But again, we were ahead of them last fiscal year. So to the extent that we're flat, they're catching up to us, if you will. Yes, sir.
Mayor and I were talking about this before the meeting, but how does that compare to, we had highs last year, but we were comparing to lows. Do we have a 5-year maybe past
Yeah, no,
look at
remember
how
last
things-
year, we were dollar for dollar speaking
Yeah,
historically high.
not just percent, but dollar
Not just
amount was the
percent,
highest,
so
yeah.
yes, so we're still historically very high.
And so, I don't know, maybe at the next month's finance meeting, could we get maybe a 5-year look back
Sure.
at sales tax in Norman and how it compares pre-COVID, during COVID, and
Absolutely.
There's an image in your packet that has 5 years of sales tax.
Second to the back page.
Yeah.
I just saw the
Change by name.
first one.
The next one.
And so even compared to before COVID and during and the height of it, I guess.
We're still dollar for dollar very high.
So if folks see that we're 0.68% negative, we're still actually really high.
Absolutely, yes. The other thing, and you'll get more detail about this when the auditors present to you at the next meeting. They will be presenting their unbound, if you will, but final audited figures. But what we're finding is continued evidence that we really need that water rate increase.
Yes.
The water fund is not doing well. And it's a concern because where we have outstanding debt for the Norman Utility Authority that is backed by those water revenues, our coverage ratios are getting dangerously close to the level that we are contracted with our bondholders to have those coverage ratios. And the auditors are probably going to be writing us up about that. So more information to follow, but I'm just wanting to give you a heads up that that's probably coming. the rate increase needs to happen sooner rather than later.
Do we go through the manager to start that program, or is that how you?
And it's your discussion. As for the timing, I know that it is on council's, strategic planning agenda, but as far as when, I don't know.
Catherine, at the conference, didn't someone say January? They wanted to try to go for it or something?
At the retreat,
Yeah,
I think,
retreat.
you all talked about January and then being concerned about being able to turn something around that quickly.
Mm,
So I think we were talking about maybe April,
okay.
the runoff. Does that sound familiar?
January is the gas franchise.
Yeah.
That's right.
Electric.
And they wanted it to be by
They-
itself.
they-
That's
paid for
right,
that.
by itself.
Yes, sir.
That's a quick turnaround for all the education you have to do.
I
Right.
guess there will be a statewide special election in March
Oh, really?
Oh, that might be
for
when the-
You can vote for some
recreational
marijuana.
marijuana. Yeah,
Oh.
the
oh,
governor
that's right.
ordered a special election, which was surprising to me. I didn't think he'd do that.
Let's try to win some votes.
Maybe. So there will be a statewide election the first Tuesday in
Sure.
March.
So
So that'll
can you
be-
do it with that special election? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know if it'd be a good
Yeah.
idea or not to put our
But
water
it-
rate on with a statewide
Hey,
election.
I mean,
Maybe.
you're gonna get some people going to the polls for that one, I promise you.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Good or bad, so you're gonna have
Sure.
some turnout. I promise you, there's a lot of people that might not normally vote that are gonna go vote.
Sure.
And show up for this one.
Yeah.
But that'd give us 5
So
months.
something to think about.
Yeah, just keep in mind, for special elections, we have to give 75 days notice to the election board. And so when you back up the first reading and second reading of the water rate ordinance, that backs you up.
December.
Yeah.
It could be done.
It can be done.
Be done, a lot of education.
So
I mean,
may-
just
maybe
carbon copy what we did earlier this year.
Yes,
I mean,
ma'am.
what do we-
We're eligible for all of those special elections
Yes,
to
this
put
is-
stuff for the municipality on?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
one of those good years for us.
Yeah.
We have almost everything.
Okay, just making sure. I know this year was really tight.
Because we purposely stayed off of the January one because OG&E was paying for it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
So kind of made it a King's X thing. Well,
And just as a point of order, when we're talking about water rate increases, utility rate increases, and you're talking about, millions of dollars per year at stake, the cost of a $30,000 election should not be a determining
Oh,
factor.
sure.
I agree.
Sure.
Just, I
But
just
keeping
think that gets-
30,000 in your pocket is also
Better if possible. And I mean, we do have to have if we have runoffs, I mean, we'd have to have an election in April anyway. So
read the-
it wouldn't be the worst.
I read the
but
statewide one is
That would be preferable.
1.7 million to have a statewide
good. golly.
special election. So
All right.
Yeah, Helen?
Well, I was just gonna throw in there, that's why we had today's special event with Imagine a Day Without Water, part of that education process.
I think folks that work in this building would say, imagine a day without clean water. Because there was an issue here.
Yeah. Well, I'm the test monkey apparently, and I'm fine so far.
No, they got the problem, the cause was determined and they got it fixed, but
It's
it was
backwash.
related to the construction over here. Apparently, they tapped into a line and, dumped some
Yeah.
dirt into
Two
it.
hooked up on both ends and back flushed in there. And what he did was right. It kept us safe. It may have been inconvenient, but we were not sick, which is good. Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
Anything else from council? Yes, sir.
I know it was asked last month, but are we going to have the vacancies report thing anymore? I know they were wanting HRs maybe having a different way to do it or something.
Well, it is reported. I will say that we had discussion just yesterday about some very critical positions, particularly the dispatchers or communication officers. They have a critical shortage where right now they're having to do mandatory overtime for those folks. We have some critical shortages in the meter reading staff. In just some areas where we're having some real trouble, having minimal staffing levels.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, whether that relates to salaries, who knows? But the fact is that we're having trouble just having minimal staffing levels in some areas. And it's not related to police or fire. It's dispatch, it's meter reading, it's Jane wanna, if you had one, but I'm, just, you know, there's some real problem areas.
And that's almost citywide, if not nationwide,
It's not nationwide yet.
so.
Yeah.
All right, anything else? Yes, ma'am.
I guess one more point of clarification on the water rate thing. So, Catherine, do you have enough information or consensus from us to move forward with this, to like maybe get it on a study session so we can get going?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
Are we gonna shoot for our March?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the discussion probably needs to begin
At the study
sooner rather
session?
than later, so
Okay.
I'll talk to Daryl about that and
Okay.
make sure that gets on an
I
agenda.
don't know that we have a study session topic next time unless he put,
We had a new calendar yesterday we were talking through, so I'll look at that when I get back to my desk and.
that'd be wonderful. All right. Seeing nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you all.